as successful as it can be, that's very inspiring.
And also taking responsibility means, like, don't complain all the time about your business. Like, say you want to quit your job and start your business, and you do that. Say Steven does that, and then he's complaining all the time to his partner, and he's unhappy, and he's not taking responsibility for the household chores that he was doing beforehand, so he's slacking off on those, and he's stressed out. Why would his partner be behind him? His partner sees that, well, he's complaining about this business that he really wanted, and he's not really doing what he, was doing around the house. So take responsibility for all of that. Don't complain. Do your part that you're already doing, and don't slack off on your other responsibilities.
I think that if you wanted to strike out on your own and you haven't previously made money, you kind of don't know what you want to do, that's something that could agitate your partner. And the difference between that and what you should do, it's like you don't want to be just trying to get away from something. You don't want what we call the stick, something that you're just trying to get away from. You want a carrot, something that you're moving toward, and there's a huge difference. So if you can come into the discussion saying, hey, I've been doing this part-time, doing it on the weekends, doing it before work, after work, and I'm making a little bit of money, kind of show proof of concept, I think that's going to help you with the discussion, and it'll go a long way toward allowing your partner to trust you.
Oh, yeah. If you can show your partner the money, whether it's a little or whether it's a lot, that goes a long way. They see that this business that you're doing is not just a hobby. It's not just something taking you away from personal time with them or time with the kids. They see that it's actually bringing income into your family, whether you have a family of 2 or a family of 4 or a family of 6, it's actually bringing money in and it's adding value. And that's a huge component. So even if you start your business really small on the side of your job, which I would recommend, and start to have proof of concept and that things are actually working, that's going to be really helpful to get your partner on board. It shows you have a plan. It shows you have a plan, and it shows that your plan is working. And if you were able to put more time into it, that it would be able to work even more. Yeah.
Yeah. The worst thing I think you can do is just try to get away from where you are now, but not know where you're going to go. And usually when I've seen that happen, and I've seen it happen a lot, we've talked about it here on the podcast, the guys that will just save up their money and quit, and then they're just stalled, don't know where they want to go. They just don't like where they were. Mm-hmm. So usually when that happens, nothing happens. There's no forward momentum. So I could understand being pretty scared about that.
And I would say last in all this is map out your worst case scenario and do it together. Say, if I am to quit my job, what is the worst case that would happen? And look at that together and decide together, is that a risk we are willing to take? Okay, well, worst case, I might have to go back and get another job. Or worst case, we might have to take out a second mortgage on the home.
The worst that could happen is you're going to lose your house. The worst that could happen is your partner's going to leave you with the kids. The worst that could happen is you're going to be homeless. The worst that's going to happen is that you're not going to be able to have a roof over your head. And I would combine that with what you're saying, Laurel, and saying, well, is that really what the biggest potential of happening is? And what's the worst in potential that could happen? And that's probably what you're saying. Well, we'd have to get a second mortgage. That's the worst potentially, because you're not going to be homeless. That's not going to happen. It could happen, but it's not going to.
Well, it depends on who you are to map out your worst case scenario. I have a friend who she works for her parents' company and she wants to quit her job. And it's something that, worst case, if her business that she already has started didn't work out, she'd just call up her family and see if she could go back to work. So worst case for her is not losing the house or not feeding the kid or whatever. Worst case is she'd have to go back to work. So I think I agree with what you're saying, but I think worst case does depend on the person and their situation, and figure out what that is for you. And know that usually it doesn't happen like that, but as you said, potential versus possibility.
Well, hey, speaking of parents, we had a related question. Sarah sent in a question, and she asked, how do you get your parents to accept that you're quitting your day job? I talked a little bit about this. I didn't tell my parents that I had quit my job until 6 months later. And that's because I had previously tried to quit and not been successful. I was just sick of answering questions. Oh, really? It was kind of like that guy who's gone on a diet a lot of times and none of them have ever worked. And, people stop believing you. And I thought that my parents were just not believing me.
Wow, so it took you 6 months. That's like what happens in a movie. You break up with somebody or get divorced and your parents don't figure out until Christmas.
Well, I wasn't just going to mention it. I was just going to hold on a little bit till I was made sure that it stuck. And I was over at my parents' house one time eating dinner, and my mom asked me, "So, how's the job going?" And I said, "I quit." And she said, "When did that happen?" And I said, "About 6 months ago." So she couldn't argue with me at that point because I was doing all right.
But my question is, our parents are great and really accepting of us, but did she accept you at that time when you told her that you quit? Was she supportive? Because it sounds like Sarah's parents might not be as supportive.
I think the first time that I really felt that I was accepted by my parents, because your parents are, they've invested money. You had braces, so you had nice teeth. You had piano lessons, so you're a well-rounded person, and they've invested a lot in your schooling as well, so you could get a nice job. Until I actually was making money, I think they were a little bit worried, and I knew that I had their acceptance, if you will, when I had a business opportunity, and I went to my father and I said, "Hey, I think that you and I could jump in on this, and I think we could make some money doing it." He said, "How much does a check need to be for?" And it wasn't much. I think it was like $5,000 maybe. And he jumped in on it with me, and that to me meant a lot. It was not only a great way, we're still making money on that, and that was probably 10 years ago. Still gives residual income every month, if you can believe it. But it was one of those things that I said, all right, this is not just words. This is actually him investing in me, and it meant a ton. I don't know. I think it would differ for different people, but certainly just being able to pay the rent or to get a home loan, there were those little things that it let me know that I was doing okay, and I think it let my parents know as well.
I think, again, you have to realize that your parents, they probably just want you to be happy. But on top of that is they want you to be safe. And quitting your job to them is you kind of going out there out of your comfort zone and not out of their comfort zone and not having that safety net of a paycheck underneath you. And this is scary to a lot of parents because they want you to be okay and they want you to be thriving. And when I got my engineering job after college, my parents were thrilled. Like they were so happy for me because that was their idea of success and that was their idea of safety. And I was fitting right in there and they didn't feel like they had to worry about me. And when I did quit my job, my parents were actually very supportive of me quitting my job because I had a plan and I knew what I was going to do and they understood that plan. But still to this day, that was 7 or 8 years ago, they still don't quite get what I'm doing. They don't quite get what I do during the day. They don't quite understand how I make money. And they can't really wrap their head around it. So I would say on some level, your parents might never really understand what you're doing. And that's okay. That's okay as long as you kind of have that heart-to-heart chat with them, if you're close to them, and just say, this is what I'm doing. Look, I'm going to be okay. Here's the plan. Things like that help kind of calm parents down.
I'm glad you said that because I think one of the key moments in my career where my parents actually knew what I did was legitimate, because I was doing like consulting and I was doing promotion, street promotion, radio promotion, more kind of a service-based business for people. But when I put a book out and I actually had a physical book, my mom was a librarian, so she could appreciate books if anybody could. Mm-hmm. And there was a physical book with my name on it that she could hold and read. She said, oh, okay, because she understood that business. So that helped a lot.
It was tangible. Maybe my parents will understand what I'm doing after I launch this book. Who knows? But I think maybe just knowing, I've talked to several entrepreneurs and their parents don't quite understand what they're doing. And you're not in the convincing business. You don't have to convince your parents that this is the right path for you. If it is the right path, go for it. Try to help them understand. maybe show them the money if that helps you, parents like that. But otherwise, just keep moving forward and understand that, maybe they'll never get it. Maybe they will.
Some people will never get it, and that's why we have Red Podcast. Because we are bringing entrepreneurs together in a community with people that understand them. And we understand, too, that you need cool stuff. You need iPods, Kindles, Apple TVs, just the things we are giving away in the Red Podcast 30-day giveaway. It's very exciting, isn't it, Laurel?
Hell yeah. I am so psyched about this.
We're giving away some cool stuff that you can actually use to further your business, because it's stuff that you can use to watch videos, listen to us on Red Podcast, read books. We've got some cool audiobooks. We've got some cool books. We've got some cool Blinkist. You know Blinkist? This thing I've been looking at, they're like, I get it on my iPad, but it's like a book summary
thing.
It's a
book summary.
Yeah. You can't keep up with all the books. You just go to Blinkist, 15, 20 minutes later, they've given you, it's like Cliff Notes.
And we're giving those away, right?
Giving those away. Got some subscriptions to that. But not only that, but the stuff to use it on. Like an iPod and
a Kindle.
A Kindle.
See, I wish I could enter our contest or our giveaway. Because I would, because I want all this stuff.
You've already. How many iPods do we have between us?
True, but mine's old, and I bought it at a pawn shop.
Yeah.
This one's like brand new and nice
and
cool. So, well, if you go to redpodcast.com, there is a page on there that you can enter into the contest.
Redpodcast.com/giveaway.
Yep, and you can enter into the contest, and we're starting that, I believe, in July.
Yep. That's the official launch, July 7th.
July 7th.
30 days of giveaway on Red Podcast. So go there, tell your friends, and anytime you mention us on Twitter, #RedPodcast, you are entered as well once you register with us. So you can do that. Laurel, thanks. Looking forward to the next episode. And if you've got questions, redpodcast.com is where to ask them. Thank you very much.
See you next time, David.
You've been listening to Red Podcast, Real Entrepreneur Development. Subscribe today using iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS at redpodcast.com.